In his writings within the Book of Sith, Darth Sidious set out how the emotion of anger would be the key to his power and the maintenance of his new empire. Based upon the knowledge of ancient Sith such as Darth Malgus, Sidious knew that when anger intensified to rage, the channeled anger of the dark side would prove just as destructive as the Death Star. And it wasn't only useful in regard to the Force. Anger would help Sidious keep the galaxy in line through fear and also weakened his enemies. An example of the power available to Sidious through rage and anger is described perfectly within the novel Star Wars Rebel Force Target. Having been informed by Vader that the Death Star had been destroyed, rage utterly consumed Sidious. His blood turned black with venom. A bolt of anger snapped across his body, and a red mist clouded his already darkened vision. It was this rage that provided Sidious with the true tools of the Sith: clarity, understanding, and power, elements of the dark side the Jedi never understood. However, there was another aspect important to Sidious's knowledge of anger and what it truly meant to be a Dark Lord of the Sith. As Sidious recalled his first learning of the Death Star's fate and the victory it gave the rebellion, his fury caused his blood to boil as his impatience grew. The anger and rage building within Sidious needed to be unleashed upon his enemies, upon anything really, so long as he acted as the catalyst for the dark side. Sidious knew that at this point, he could destroy an entire building with a single thought. But this wasn't the endpoint to a Sith Lord's true power and their mastery over the dark side. Anger was only the beginning, for it was control and will that elevated the true worth of a Sith Lord. Sidious knew it was his patience that was the key. Patience and control allowed Sidious to channel his anger so he could bend it to his will, to use it to fuel the dark side. Through the control of one's anger, a Sith Lord could truly master the Force. Therefore, Sidious wasn't merely pleased at the power and understanding his anger gave him, but the control he developed, which afforded him mastery few Sith obtained. But at the same time, as Sidious recognized this was his greatest strength, he also knew it was the greatest weakness of his apprentice Darth Vader. In fact, the Dark Lord recognized that Vader was very Jedi-like in his inability to understand the importance of control over his anger. Although he was a very quick learner in the ways of the dark side, even by the time of the Battle of Yavin, almost 2 decades into his study, Sidious knew Vader still hadn't learned how to control his anger like his master did. Instead, as Sidious hoarded his rage to be channeled at a time it was needed, Vader blindly spent his anger without thought, wasting the potential he was so naturally afforded. This weakness recognized by Sidious, where Vader failed to channel and hoard his anger, is perfectly shown within the Legends novel Death Star. Upon his Star Destroyer, the Devastator, traveling to inspect the progress made on the Death Star, Vader emerged from his hyperbaric chamber. He recognized the power of the dark side flowed through him, fueling the rage developed by contemplating the events of his life since Mustafar. At this point, Vader realized he had 2 options. As his master Sidious would want, he could absorb and hoard the dark side, keeping it confined within himself to be unleashed at a time it was needed within the future. Or, he could use the power created through the combination of his rage fueled by the dark side then and now, in a momentary use of fury. Sidious clearly knew his apprentice all too well, as Vader chose the latter, blindly spending the power to uselessly break a mirror with his fist, rather than controlling it as Sidious would want. Vader was obviously a gifted Sith Lord, and due to the tragic losses that served to push him to the dark side, he had no shortage of rage and anger to feed off of. But nonetheless, Sidious still recognized there was a glaring weakness in his apprentice. Despite decades of dark side training, Vader still failed to control his anger, and in this way, Sidious knew his apprentice was unable to gain mastery as a Sith Lord, to channel the flood of rage and bend it to his will, thereby achieving true power that only a few Sith could claim access to. So there we have it, what Sidious recognized as Vader's greatest weakness. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. Or perhaps follow us on Twitter at SW Reading Club for updates regarding the channel. Or support the channel through Patreon for access to exclusive rewards and discussions. If not for me... For sometimes, just doing what you have to do.